Hello and welcome to how to make stamps. The material that we're going to be using to create our printing blocks is called Soft-Kut. It is a special material that is designed to be carved easily by the tools that we have available to us. And even though it looks like an eraser, it is not. You can see that it's really flexible, very soft, but it's also very durable. You can ink it over and over and use it to make many prints before it falls apart. We are going to be using speedball carving tools. It is designed for student use and the blades are inside. You pop off the bottom or twist it off and the blades are in there. Changing out the blades and adding blades is very easy. You twist this mechanism here to loosen it. That allows you to insert the blade and then you twist it back down to lock it. However, keep in mind that this will come off if you twist it too much. And inside of it, there are two smaller parts that are actually very important when holding the blades. If one of these parts should get lost, it would render it unusable. To insert the blade, you simply want to find that opening between the two internal parts. Once the blade's safely inside, all you have to do is twist it down to lock it in place. It's very easy. Make sure you replace the cap on the handle. It is a lot easier to use this way, and whenever possible, keep the blades inside the handle. We have 4 different blades that we'll be using. We have a large V-shaped blade, this medium U-shaped blade, and a slicing blade. They each have different purposes and achieve different results. And we have this really small, finer V-shaped blade. That's the one you might start with. Before we start, let's discuss how a stamp works. A stamp will usually have a face, or the part that is going to take the ink and make the impression on the paper. And below the face, sunken into the background, is just the backing of the stamp. This is where the ink will not reach, and therefore that part will not leave a mark on the paper. You can see on this particular stamp, the yellow represents what is going to leave an imprint. So let's just see what happens when we imprint it. By using a flat brush stroke, we applied paint to only the face of the stamp, and it's easy to tell on this one what's going to leave a mark and what is not. Always line up your stamp. Once you let it fall on the paper, make sure it doesn't move around on the paper and apply pressure. Then carefully lift your stamp off. As you can see, only the face of the stamp transferred onto the paper because only the face of the stamp got the ink or the paint. Everywhere that is receded towards the back that did not get ink will leave a white imprint, and that is that white ring in the center of our sun stamp. And that is how stamps work. Once you are ready to carve, you have to make a decision. Do you want your design to be the imprint, the part that has ink, or do you want your design to be the background and remain white? This stamp right here is designed so that the imprint is made by the design itself, and as you can see, the design is the face of the stamp, and I carved away around my design. That is going to make it so that when I use it, the design will be black or whatever color and the background will be white. Because of that, I think I'm going to carve away the design on this one so that my design leaves a white imprint with a black surrounding. Before you start carving away, you want to carve away the outline of your design. Either the large or the small V-shaped blade will work for this. These blades are designed to sit at an angle to the material that you are carving. You are literally placing the blade at an angle and then carving away at a very light angle. You're not actually stabbing into the Soft-Kut. And you can see that it really does make very delicate carvings. It is very important that you hold the blade accurately and just allow the blade to carve into it as you slowly push it forward. This is a slow process. Do not rush this. Sometimes it helps to hold the blade still and actually move the piece. As you can see, I'm sticking to the outside of my design. I'm going to outline everything that's surrounding that black solid design. And this is a very, very slow process. This portion of the video is actually sped up And as you can see, it looks like I'm carving away really slow when my blade is actually making contact with the Soft-Kut. And what I want you to notice is how I am carving a very thin line away from the outline. Okay, so it's a really good opportunity to get a good close look as to what this process looks like. And again, I'm actually moving so slow that when it's sped up even by double, it looks like I'm moving at a regular pace. That is how slow you should be moving. And you will also notice that a lot of the times I'm holding the blade still, and what's moving is the Soft-Kut piece, not necessarily my hand pushing the blade. This is back to normal speed. I want to show you how to get a round shape. The best way to get the round shape is by holding the tool relatively still while moving the Soft-Kut in a circular or curved way until you come back to where the tool started carving. Holding the blade still and moving the Soft-Kut in a circle really is the best way to carve out circles or curvy lines. The reason for this is that the hand really can only go back and forth when carving. So if you hold it still and just move the Soft-Kut in a circular motion, you are able to control that flow and make sure you get those little curves in. This is sped up again. Now that I'm done carving the outline of my design, it is time to switch blades. I'm going to switch to the U-shaped blade. And this is a good close-up of exactly where the blade goes, in between the two internal parts. Then you just tighten the bolt and secure the blade. Don't forget to hold the blade properly. This is the U-shaped blade, and even though it seems broader at the base, it's still very capable of making very delicate and small cuts. You'll see that it can take off little bits and pieces at a time. Okay, please note that I am not gouging away at the Soft-Kut. I am simply removing a very thin layer of the Soft-Kut. This is the same technique sped up, and you can see that I am staying in between my outlines. I went and then took the time to carve out the outline, and now I'm going to use it as a guide. And because I want my design to be white on the paper and the ink to be around it, I'm going to be carving out my design. Remember, if you want your design to be the solid inked part of your print, then you want to be carving around the outside of your design. Even though this video is sped up, when I am actually making the cut, it looks like I'm going at a relatively normal speed. Remember to please take your time. It is very important that you do not work too fast. Here is real time. It is a very slow process. You want to be careful. Once you remove it, there's no putting it back. You can always carve away a little more, but you can never put it back. The U-shaped blade worked well for carving out the thick lines of my design, but I'm going to now cut out the circles that I made, and for that I'm going to change over to the larger V-shaped blade. The V-shaped blade has a smaller base, and it removes thinner slivers of the Soft-Kut material. This is good for making small detailed pieces. You can see that I'm cutting out my circle, but I'm really just cutting out one small strip at a time. And I'm trying to keep the center of the circle as part of the stamp face, so I want to very carefully carve around it. I'm also keeping in mind that I cannot replace any Soft-Kut that I remove. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I'm really taking my time and getting little tiny pieces off one at a time, and I'm going to allow some to stay. Why not? This is pretty much my finished stamp. You can see that I carved a nice thin layer from my design, and you can see where the flat face of my stamp is that's going to be making the imprint. The only real way to see how well it turned out is to give it a test run, so I'm going to make a test stamp and see if I like my results. Once I do the test stamp, I can either leave it as it is, or I can go back and carve it out a little more to refine it. I want to take a second to point out how thin these Soft-Kut shavings are. It really is only a very thin layer that you're removing. Please don't make it any thicker than maybe the thickness of a dime. When looking at the stamp, you should be able to tell that it's a very thin layer that was removed. Now we're ready to use our stamp. I'm going to use a flat brush to apply a thin layer of paint onto both my stamps. And right here is a really good opportunity to see exactly what's going to make the imprint on the paper. You can also use an ink pad, but a brush is very handy and it allows you to use whatever kind of paint you have available. This is the stamp we just finished making. Remember, I carved out my design, so it should be white on the paper. This is the stamp that I've previously made, where I carved around the design. Therefore, my design should be dark on the paper. And here you go. And there you have it. That is how you make a stamp. Now remember, you have a decision to make. If you want your design to be white with a dark surrounding, then you carve away your design. If you want your design to be solid with a white surrounding, you carve away around your design. Thanks for watching.